It's so dark in here that it's actually getting harder to breathe. I've never experienced such an overwhelming lack of light. The all-encompassing nothing that has done everything in its might to make my experience of its nothingness the most terrifying unknown on this plane of existence hasn't just made off with my sense of sight, but with the very notion that I had once held within myself a cozy space with reservation intended just for me. A space so insignificant to all but myself, a notion within an ideal that wouldn't be noticeable even if it were built upon a mote of dust that floats past your eye, as if controlled by some unseen hand. Never able to convince yourself if there had ever really been such a passing particle to begin with. I find myself in ponderance of this exact thought, if the darkness has without cause or effect robbed me so deeply of the sensation of an outstretched hand filled to bursting with the simple excitement of grasping onto an unconnected understanding of hope, a hope of becoming, however briefly, connected to another existence. To have the certainty and irrefutable truth that loneliness and feeling has no bearing on you being truly alone. But now my eyes betray the hands that brought countless unappreciated joyful connections. The nose that welcomed unrivaled sweetness and the most putrid vial as equals without discrimination can now intake the blackness and nothing more. The lips that had for so long shaped every excited verse, laced to intoxicating with longing and love. The lips that had the ability to become stiffened to a razor's edge that spilled every loathed curse that my breath saw fit to instantly break my heart into regretting, have lost all form, have lost all the life-changing power that mundanity can seem to carry. Without will or purpose, these very often forgotten satellites will remind you, as they have me, that the sum of the parts can't even begin to be considered as who you are. Without connection, without the pinhole of radiance meant to be emanating from somewhere else, with its warmth targeting uncaringly near your orbit, there is no difference between life and death. No discernible parallel to what it is to simply exist, or the excruciatingly nagging inner thought that perhaps the most likely truth is that you had never existed at all to begin with. In this darkness I am nothing, and in this nothingness the single infallible truth is that I am dead. And as I have become death, death has become me.
Under the moon I saw you, so you'll take me up in your arms, too late to beg you to cancel it though I know it must be killing time, unwillingly mine. Fate up against your will, through the thick and thin, it'll wait until you give yourself
Hello,
to him.
And welcome to our wonderful safe space that from today on shall be known as No Robs Allowed.
No robots allowed, especially not Baba robots. Are giant and hairy and somehow double as tater tots that beatbox.
I think that just saying the No Robs Allowed thing really kind of covered all that. I don't think we had to get personal and mean with it, Chris.
No, I just wanted to say all of those rhymey rhymes. Really.
Baba Robot, the beatboxing tater tots.
Yeah.
So, you know, he sent me, well, my child, but me now, because I get to play with it until she's here, his baby swing. He did that. Just out of the kindness of whatever is where his heart's supposed to be.
I see. Did you disinfect it?
I haven't received it yet. I get it tomorrow, and disinfection will take place in 3, 2. Anyway, so this this little gem of an ep right now is the 48th. Can you believe it, Chris?
Son of a chicken fluffer.
Can you believe in the lives that you and I lead that neither of us are dead yet, that we have made it to the 48th episode?
No, I mean, every day I'm in disbelief that I am still living, especially with the job I do.
Chris doesn't like to say this out loud to people, but really, everyone out there, what Chris needs more than anything, Chris needs your prayers. He needs your prayers. He needs you to email him and tell him how much, how often Jesus out loud says to other people how he loves Chris. Because as often as old ladies tell me to roll down my window and turn down my music and tell me quite forcefully that Jesus loves me, dude gets around, is what I'm saying.
That's happened to me a couple of times, actually, but if it happens to you on a regular basis, I mean, I can only say...
I mean, it's not like,
welcome to New Orleans.
It's not like twice a week or anything, but it's more often than people tell me to roll down my window and turn down my music and tell me forcefully that Satan says hi, Well,
are you playing, like, death metal, or...
I mean,
what do you got going on?
I don't listen to, like, super offensive music,
people?
like, I mean, like, No Effects and Dead Kennedys and...
oh, you're definitely offending people.
Well, fuck them.
Well, it would offend me. I mean...
It's just songs about having fun and such. And the most angry, Jesus Loves You I ever got. I was listening to the most positive Dead Kennedy song ever, which is Nazi Punks Fuck Off.
Yeah, I suppose that is a pretty positive song.
I
mean, I can appreciate that.
But after you send all of your well wishes and well-meaning prayers Chris's way, care of Chichi Barbaros at snhnsnpod@gmail.com and or see no hear no speak no pod at gmail.com. We would like to thank you in advance for the thousands of shut up already and start the shows that we're going to get. And then...
yeah, I'm sure we will.
We would like to say, welcome to another, man am I excited about this fucker, episode of See No, Hear No, Speak No.
It's Murder Month! With the UFOs and the conspiracies to go along with them. And I do believe, in following such a good starting lineup, I mean, how could we not close Murder Month with just, the most depraved and
I think that
ridiculous.
That's really been a theme running throughout this month of terrible murders is the sheer I don't give a fuckery depravity of it all, because
I like where we've been. The adventure's been it's been an adventure.
It's been crazy. We've had just indiscriminate hobo fucking. We've had indiscriminate old lady in church backstabbing.
Indeed, we've had church burnings, and on both sides, actually. I don't think specifically it was a church that Carol Cott was burning down those 3 or 4 times, but it was somebody's house or something.
He was terrible at everything.
Some guy.
So it was probably a doghouse or something. But
he was just unlearned.
No, he was just bad at things, Chris. I was thinking more about it.
He had potential. He had such potential.
I was thinking more about it, and I just think he was just terrible at everything he did.
I think he wanted to give his all, but, perhaps there was some hesitation.
Okay. We can talk about this at length.
Lack of confidence
later, because the spotlight belongs on this one man tonight.
That's true.
And
that's true, and I can't believe that you get.
Well, I get because I called. This
true.
is certainly an episode where Chris knows exactly who the fuck I'm talking about. And I didn't try to keep it a secret because it wouldn't have fucking made any difference at all.
No.
So we're going to do something a little tiny bit different with the structure of the show tonight. Because, off bat, we're going to take you back to November of 1934. Now, in the first day of November, Winston Churchill warned that Britain... Well, of course he didn't warn that Britain. He is Britain. He's fucking Winston Churchill. He warned Britain that Germany was rearming secretly, illegally, and rapidly. And he expressed astonishment at the government's attitude, saying, "When we consider the character of the present German government, the rapidly darkening European scene, and the obligations which ministers repeatedly are declaring we have in Europe, things look pretty fucking grim." So, the whole world is getting quite a bit darker at this time of year and this time of the century. Things are... things ain't looking so great for the good old Earth, as we like to call her. We like to call her Papa Ground. That's what I call her. Old Daddy Dirty Stuffs is what I genuinely hope my daughter calls me.
That's too many things running through my mind.
It's not only too many things running through your mind, it's also a very long nickname, which nicknames tend to not be. But
no, but I would love to hear what, as she learns to speak, what that comes out as.
It's gonna be a mushy mess, and I can't wait to hear it and fucking blast it on goddamn Facebook, because it's gonna happen. Something else, kind of neat, happened in specifically November of 1934, which is a hero of Chris and myself was born. Mr. Carl Sagan was born that month, that year. So things are starting to look up, and things are starting to maybe, find that footing, and maybe the Nazis won't win their their stuff that lets them do things. But then again, because then Charles Manson was born. So I mean, it's a trip. It's a trip and a slip.
There has to be a balance in the universe, my good sir.
Does there?
I mean, if there's no balance, then shit gets fucked up in all kinds of unpredictable ways.
Oh, it's called chaos, buddy. It's gonna happen anyway.
Right. So that's the deal. That's what it's all about, is the struggle for the balance.
Well, now we tip the scales in the not so great opposite direction here, and the Nazi punny. That's because I'm full of puns about the Nazis. The Nazi Party won elections in the free city of Danzig, where opposition parties were still permitted to run, which means they ran against actual fucking politicians, and people were like, I like the cut of the jib of those Nazi guys.
I wonder if the mothers were telling the children not to walk his way, or hear the words, what they mean, what they say.
Mother.
I wonder. Well,
I mean, probably.
I mean, yeah, I would think so. I would think so, because moms can see through some bullshit. But, at the same time, I don't know. They can't all be winners. just like everything else. You know, unfortunately, there are some doctors out there who skated by on their grades, just like moms, and just like...
Hey man, everyone deserves an oopsie, and is awarded an oopsie at least twice in their lives.
Oh, sure, you gotta learn the hard way in the field, you know?
I mean, you get one serious oopsie, and you get one so serious oopsie. After that, I mean, don't use them up right away. Just
no.
You gotta save that big one. You gotta put that in your back pocket till your 70s, and that's when you're like, I don't know where I am. I forgot to wear my underwear, and I didn't bring my tie to my robe. I don't know where am I. This is a preschool, isn't it? Huh.
I would use mine for like a get out of colon cancer free card or something.
Oh, see, no, that's not an oopsie. I mean, it is. It's just, it's God's oopsie. So, no takebacks on those, buddy.
No takebacks.
No takebacks on those. But before we end this this ridiculous fucking scene setting that we've started and then just blatantly continued on with, I would like to go ahead and even out those scales just a little bit. Just a little bit.
See? I told you the universe will find its balance.
In saying that this year, on November 21st, 1934, which was a Wednesday, suck at people who say it wasn't, 17-year-old Ella Fitzgerald made her singing debut at Harlem's Apollo Theater, winning first prize in the venue's famous amateur contest.
That is too cool.
I mean, I'm not wrong in thinking that Ella Fitzgerald is gonna go ahead and negate the Nazi Party, right?
Well, no. I mean, but really, you know, there's only so many ways back then to escape.
I really want to see her in fatigues with an old World War II Army hat on and just an M4 in her hands, just trudging through the mud, just by herself, just taking them all down. Just fucking goddamn Fritz's skulls all just glittering in the sun like her beautiful Motown jewelry.
See, I could see her more as like a drill instructor's assistant or a drill instructor herself, like you know, leading the march and the song and all of that. Like she would have a fun squad, I believe.
Hey man, I can fucking dig it.
You know?
And if it wouldn't
wouldn't
sound like crap, I would snap my fingers right now so hard and be like, that's what it is.
I'm feeling it. So, see, with her as the drill instructor and then maybe Satchmo as her assistant, that'd be a fun squad.
I mean, it'd be fun and fair, but it'd be tough work, you know?
Of course.
Because, God damn it, this is the Army. And this ain't your mama's house no more. And
indeed.
Shoodly-bee-bop-bop-bop.
It's time to be a big boy now.
That's right. It's time to learn how to scat like the big boys. So, since we went ahead and leveled off the karma of the universe.
Ooh, one more fun fact about 1934. This is the last one, I promise.
Please.
It did not happen in November. However, it does go along with the show's, you know, general catch line or whatever. The Loch Ness Monster was spotted on January 14th for the very first time, producing the famous surgeon's photograph.
Ah, so that piece of driftwood was pictured for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm such an ass.
He caught it. Nature.
Love you, Nessie.
Action.
Love ya.
All right.
So,
your turn.
And now Chris has added just a couple of more little gold pieces into the good side, the good-natured, the kumbaya, the head wreaths made of flowers, the annoying long-haired patchouli fucks side of it all. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw Scrooge McDuck's entire fucking vault onto the fucking dark side. And
here we go, kids.
I'm going to read a letter that in November of 1934 was anonymously sent to a little girl's parents. This letter is read as follows. Dear Mrs. Budd, in 1894, a friend of mine shipped as a deckhand on the steamer Tacoma, Captain John Davis. They sailed from San Francisco to Hong Kong, China. On arriving there, he and 2 others went ashore and got drunk. When they returned, the boat was gone. At that time, there was a famine in China. Meat of any kind was from $1 to $3 a pound. So great was the suffering among the very poor that all the children under 12 were sold to the butcher to be cut up and sold for food in order to keep others from starving. A boy or girl under 14 wasn't safe in the street. You could go in any shop and ask for steak, chops, or stew meat. Part of the naked body of a boy or girl would be brought out, and just what you wanted cut from it. A boy or girl's behind, which is the sweetest part of the body, and sold as veal, brought the highest price. John stayed there so long, he acquired a taste for human flesh. On his return to New York, he stole 2 boys, one 7, one 11. Took them to his home, stripped them naked, tied them in a closet, and burned everything they had on. Several times every day and night he spanked them, tortured them, to make their meat good and tender. First he killed the 11-year-old boy because he had the fattest ass, and of course, the most meat on it. Every part of his body was cooked and eaten, except the head, bones, and guts. He was roasted in the oven, all of his ass. Boiled, broiled, fried, stewed. The little boy was next. He went the same way. At that time, I was living at 409 East 100th Street, rear right side. He told me so often how good human flesh was, I made up my mind to taste it. On Sunday, June the 3rd, 1928, I called on you at 406 West 15th Street, brought you pot cheese, strawberries. We had lunch. Grace sat in my lap and kissed me. I made up my mind to eat her, on the pretense of taking her to a party. You said yes, she could go. I took her to an empty house in Westchester I had already picked out. When we got there, I told her to remain outside. She picked wildflowers. I went upstairs and stripped off all of my clothes. I knew if I did not, I would get blood on them. When all was ready, I went to the window and called her. Then I hid in a closet until she was in the room. When she saw me all naked, she began to cry and tried to run downstairs. I grabbed her, and she said she would tell her mama. First I stripped her naked. How she did kick, bite, and scratch. I choked her to death, then cut her in small pieces so I could take my meat to my rooms, cook, and eat it. How sweet and tender her little ass was, roasted in the oven. It took me 9 days to eat her entire body. I did not fuck her, though. I could have, had I wished. She died a virgin. This letter reached the Budd household, and a shocked and astonished would be trifle understatements to try and even put what feelings this family of this until now little lost girl had while reading this. They knew that it was true from the details within. The mother of the little girl, the time it was uneducated. She couldn't read, so her eldest, he had to read this letter to his mother. And now that we've gotten the letter from hell out of the way, we're gonna go back a little bit, 7 years to be exact. So that little girl's elder brother that ended up having to read that letter to their mom was Edward Budd. He was an 18-year-old, and in the late, roaring 20s, or was it roaring 30s? I don't know.
30s.
I don't know what sound all these decades make. He
depressing 30s, I think.
Well, we're not there quite yet. So he's still a go-get-'em young strapping buck, 18 years old, just eyes to the future, head to the clouds, and shit on his shoes because goddamn trash pickup was probably just not very good in New York at that time. But he really wanted to make something out of himself. So, he lives in this house with his mom and his, I believe, 2 sisters and dad, of course. And they live in fucking poverty. So
as did most people.
As did more than most, I'm sure. So on May 25th of 1928, he puts a classified in the Sunday edition of the New York World that read, "Young man, 18, wishes position in country, Edward Budd, 406 West 15th Street." And I'm going to go ahead and say it, Chris. I think my 1928 18-year-old New Yorker's accent was spot the fuck on.
I mean, it was pretty well rehearsed. And can I just throw out there, because we went into the rest of this pretty quickly, that letter never, ever ceases to have an impact.
After the first time I heard it, I never fucking forgot it. I mean, I couldn't recite it word for fucking word, but it's... We'll get into more of the psyche of the man who wrote it in just a bit, but it's that's something that stays with you.
Yeah, the
it's
story
certainly
is
something that fucking stays with you.
Yeah, not to be forgotten, indeed. And it just, like I said, every time I hear it, which is not often, but still,
right.
This guy pops into my head every so often, and then of course, the rest of the story in a quick flash, and then when you actually hear the letter again in its entirety, it just, like I said, it just never ceases to have an impact.
It seems to kill a little part of you every fucking time you hear it,
time,
and you never get it back.
God damn it.
So Ed Budd here, he, being a strapping young man that's ready and willing to go out and make money to contribute to his family's their poverty problem, because they are fucking dirt poor and they live in a goddamn crowded tenement. It's his dad, his mom, and 4 younger siblings. So that's 5, 6, that's 7 fucking people. So living through all of this in 1928 New York, he wanted nothing more than to be out working in the countryside where he could fucking breathe.
I bet.
But while he was out there, being able to fucking breathe, he still at the same time wanted to contribute to the family. He wanted to send all that money home just to help out any way that he fucking could, So on the following Monday, which was May 28th, Edward's mom, Delia, Delia, am I correct in saying Delia? Yes, Delia, who was a big old lady, big old mountain of a lady. Boy, was she, I mean, one could say, Chris, and I hope you know where I'm headed with this, that she was brick house. She was mighty. Girl, letting it all hang out.
I feel that. That was, I was gonna say pleasantly plump.
No, I mean, well, that doesn't come in until the shake it down now part. So she answers the door. She answers the door to an elderly man who introduced himself as Frank Howard. Said that he was a farmer from Farmingdale, Long Island.
That's convenient.
It certainly is convenient. And the way that places seem to be named here in America, you would think that Farmingdale wouldn't have a single fucking farm in it. But the buds weren't the brightest bunch in the tenement house. So he wanted to interview Edward about that fucking job. You know, he's like, hey, I was reading the paper, strapping young man, willing to work. We're going to do this. So,
what can we do?
Delia then told her 5-year-old Beatrice to go ahead and get her brother at his friend's apartment. So the old man beamed at her and just fucking goddamn, hey there, Beatrice, you go get your brother. And gives her a shiny new nickel, which I'm sure in today's money's like $50.
Probably.
Just handing out goddamn nickels to everybody. He must be rich.
Shit. If a nickel's $50, then $3 or $4 a pound for some little kid meat was astronomical.
Well, it was $3 or $4 a pound Chinese, which is really just like $3 or $4.
Ah.
Yeah, so really it's very fair pricing for kid meat, I would think.
Cool then.
The things you make me say on this show. So while they waited for Eddie Boy to get back to the house, Delia finally had a chance to really give the old man that came a knocking a good once over with the balls in her eye socket places. She had taken her eyes out years ago and put tiny little rubber balls in there because she thought it'd be fun at parties, but then she went blind and it was a whole thing. So she drew little pupils on them, and then magically she could see again.
My brother said if he ever had to have a prosthetic eye, he would want it to be a googly eye.
See, that's just wrong. That's just mean to everyone else in the world, and fuck your brother. Fuck your stupid brother.
It would be hilarious, though.
God damn you. This old dude had a fucking kindly face. Kindly enough, I guess. How threatening can an old man be? His face had, was framed by gray hair and had a big fucking droopy gray mustache. And he told Miss Bud that he earned his living for a long fucking time as an interior decorator in the city and then retired to a farm he bought with his savings. He had 6 kids that he raised by himself since his wife had abandoned them all over a decade ago. So he's laying it on pretty thick here.
Pretty thick.
With
abandon is a pretty strong word.
With the brick house. Although, once we get into it a little bit more, strong but fair. But with the help of his kids, plus 5 farmhands and a Swedish cook, or one could call this person possibly
You tried.
a Swedish chef.
You tried not to.
No one could understand what the fuck he said. But boy, was that kitchen a mess. He made...
That's a spicy meatball.
That is not what the
that's
fucking
Italian,
Swedish...
but
Yeah, fucking goddamn...
Swedish meatballs.
Mario's our goddamn chef now.
I was trying to mix... Oh, excuse me. Dude, just meatball.
Thank you. A bird, a bird.
Is that better?
That's not just better. It's the best. And we will give our listeners nothing but... Say it with me, Chris. The best.
The best.
You didn't say it with me. this is a shit show. It's so bad. So,
well, just fix it in editing. Don't worry about it.
oh yeah, just use your fucking personal time to make my fuck up better, Jason. No problem, Chris.
What happened to the intern?
What happened to the intern that never existed? I don't know. Maybe it still doesn't exist. I mean, if I call them interns after I do it, does that make it legal? So after, he's saying that this group, his kids and farm hands and his fucking Muppet chef, they finally made the farm into a successful goddamn operation with several hundred chickens, half a dozen dairy cows. But one of his farm hands was moving on, and he needed someone to replace him. He was gonna wander on home now. He was gonna shuffle off. He's gonna ride off into the sunset, and then he was gonna go right into the fucking sun. Because oh my god, his son's right there, and then oh my god, he's burning. Oh my god, Chris.
Yeah, that would suck. I don't think that was his plan.
What do we tell his mother? Oh, we tell his mom that it was engines.
Oh,
that's
shit.
What we. Is it okay that his mother is Eleanor Roosevelt? That's the
Sure.
That's the lady that started all the engine war nonsense, right?
Yeah.
History. Read a book.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
So he needed a young strapping man, as luck would have it, to replace this guy. And at that moment, old Eddie Boy came in and met a Mr. Howard, who
sounds to me like an engine might have been a better idea. They seem pretty hard working.
But then you got to learn engine. You got to put up with their fucking dancing all the time, dancing for this, dancing for that, just dancing all the time.
Well, I mean, it seems like a pretty efficient way to get your crops watered.
Yeah, dancing.
And it's a feel-good time.
You know what?
For the rest of the laborers in the field.
If you just let go and let the rhythm take you,
that's
you know
all
you
got to do.
If you just go ahead and just come, much your body do that conga.
I felt it.
Oh man, we have it. We have it together. Come on.
Oh man.
Don't control yourself any longer.
Sorry, kids.
you gotta feel the rhythm of the music getting stronger.
Oh man.
Conga beat.
That one woke the cat up. She was like, "Oh my god, what the hell is happening? Is Gloria Estefan attacking us? What the fuck?"
I wake up in cold sweats every night screaming that, Chris. So Eddie comes in and he meets Mr. Howard, who has no problem remarking at the boy's size and strength. Eddie assured the old man that he was a hard worker and he wanted to work hard for him, and Mr. Howard offered him $15 a week, which Edward accepted joyfully because that must have been like, I'm going to pay you $6 million to come mow my lawn.
Right.
Howard...
Take care of your whole family, son.
Mr. Howard, the mysterious Mr. Howard at that, even agreed to hire Willie, who is Edward's closest friend. I'm guessing the friend whose apartment he was at. That really only makes sense. Because otherwise, apartment friend, tough shit, dude. Like, you should have been there. Willie just happened to be walking by. He's like, "You kid, Christmas goose, go fetch." So,
how's about a job?
So Mr. Howard unfortunately had to leave for an appointment, but he promised to come back on Saturday to pick the boys up. Well, fucking expectedly, these fucking boys were thrilled. That's money, dude. Fucking that is goddamn money. $15 a week? So the buds were also happy that, a good position with a kindly old fucking gentleman really came very quickly from Edward's, little ad in the newspaper. Like, what are the chances? So,
obviously pretty lucrative.
Lucrative is a word that means that things are good and prosperous. But
indeed,
it sounds dirty and slimy and it sounds like it's covered in oils that are just like if you try to grab lucrative with your hand, it's just going to slip out and it's going to land on the floor, and then everybody's going to try to help you out by picking it up, and it's a whole thing. And
so it's like
I don't like
the
it.
Bastard love child of lewd and lascivious.
We could go with that. Are you okay with going with that?
I mean, it does sound pretty gross.
Okay, then that's what we're going to go with.
Cool.
So on Saturday, June 2nd, which is, the day that was supposed to be the the big day, well, Mr. Howard didn't show. Instead, they got a handwritten note from him saying that he'd been delayed for this and that and some such and yada, 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 and he would call in the morning. So the next morning at around 11, this is, remember, Sunday, June the 3rd, Frank Howard came to the Bud's apartment bringing gifts of strawberries and fresh, creamy pot cheese.
Pot cheese?
It's not the kind of pot cheese that you think it is, Chris. Don't get so excited.
I'm sure it's not.
So he walks in holding this, to them, what must look like food for kings and gods.
Yeah, now, do you think they were dipping the strawberries in said cheese in a pot? Is it cheese in a pot, or is it...
you know what?
Where does the pot come into play? That's what I would need to know.
I think it's cooked in a pot, and then maybe, out it comes and, it's hardened. And I do think it maybe is a more creamy cheese. I don't know. I can't...
I mean, strawberries and creme fraiche, strawberries
this is
and
certainly...
mascarpone.
Creme fraiche, this is certainly not. As most things are certainly not creme fraiche.
Well, I mean, we are in England, right? So
No, we're in fucking New York.
we're in fucking New York.
Wait, are you in England right now? Can you drive a truck to England?
For some reason, I wish. Excuse me. For some reason, I always picture this griminess as being like a 1800s London.
I mean,
setting.
it's just it's more of an all-round grime that just still covered the globe in this time period, So, I mean, I'm sure that England was just as grimy. I mean,
so just as bad, yeah.
Our listeners across the pond there, tell us, was England just as grimy as the U.S. at the time? I expect so.
I expect so, sir.
So, he brightens their day even more by saying, these products come directly from my farm. Saying, fuck, this is the kind of shit we do. And then your son's gonna get to do shit like this. You're gonna get fucking pot cheese all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't pass it up.
Family benefits.
We're not talking sweet lovin' in the sack.
Now, who needs that?
Because it's an unspoken
you can rub
rule.
pot cheese on your nips.
We do not have to talk about it. Because it's just known.
We rub pot cheese on our nips.
So... Fuck you.
It's just known.
So Delia persuaded the old man to stay to eat this beautiful pot cheese and the so-so strawberries. Well, for the first time, Albert Budd Sr. had an opportunity to talk with his son's new employer. It, he came away a happy pops. He really did. He came away a very happy Papa Dirty Stuff. This old man was kind. He was polite. He was a gentleman. He was just so fucking excited about this fucking farm in Farmington, fucking Farmville, goddamn. Oh, he's got a farm.
Pot cheese, son.
Man, it's like the Macho Man Randy Savage describing a farm that he doesn't actually have to a man who's not exactly sure what a farm is. It's either that place where food's grown, or there's fucking loud horseless carriages that keep running around outside. Those are pretty sure those are called farms, right? He says quietly to his eldest, and his eldest looks at him as if to say, "Yeah, probably."
I bet it's that place where they make the fresh squeezed cow juice.
God damn it, Chris, now I want some milk. So, you know, he's got, it's all fucking rainbows and sunshine and smiley face stickers. It's all like, your son is gonna be so fucking happy here at this real farm that's actually a place with me, the guy that's actually a farmer. You know? So he's like, not only that, I got super awesome crew of farmhands, and like just like a simple, like, you know, we live like a hearty country lifestyle. You know?
We're a family here.
We're a family. And
You know,
that
take care of our own.
that means we go family style.
Ew.
Which
Are we
means,
talking about like Roman?
no, I'm talking about how they go, dude. No, they go to Jesus, dude. I'm
Break out the ceremonial oil.
No, man. I'm talking about how they go to Olive Garden twice a week and eat as a family.
That's totally different.
I mean, they still break out the ceremonial oil though.
Oh man.
So, you know,
One of these times I'll be right.
so Al Budd Sr., I mean, he couldn't be fucking happier. I mean, this is like, you know, this is like if Chris or I in the early 2000s had goddamn Bill Gates come to our house to offer us a job at Google. You know? It'd be a little weird because I don't think Bill Gates runs Google. But, you know, still, if we're going to get raped...
That guy's got a lot of money.
If we're going to get raped and murdered by anyone, I want it to be gentle, nerdy Bill Gates.
Yeah.
You ever
Yeah.
you ever seen his DUI mugshot? It's great.
No.
Oh, man.
Actually, shit, no.
The little young nerdy man. Oh, it's so cute. So, Albert Sr., what he did, you know, occupationally wise, was he was a porter for the Equitable Life not insurance. Oof. Man, that would have been a messy faux pas.
Oh, listen at you.
He was a porter for the Equitable Life Assurance Company.
Assurance.
And, you know, he had the air of a man that was perpetually submissive, meaning he was certainly not the alpha dog in the room. Kinda at any time. Like, not just, you know, maybe with people that are actually above him. He was a whimpering wuss man, and that's okay. I mean, if that's how I mean, he obviously got the brick house of a woman into some kind of agreement, and
Who was married?
and pushed to 5 babies into her. 6 babies. 5. They done had sex at least a few times.
Well, I'm not hungry anymore.
Well, I'm sure that'll change in 5 minutes.
Sweet.
So he at the same time he wasn't really super impressed with the way that this Mr. fucking Frank Howard looked, because although you know, he's an old man who had a very well thought out and rehearsed backstory for his farm and such, he was wearing this like crumpled blue suit, but he also kept slipping, you know, here's a nickel to a kid. Hey, you over there. You, the dumb one. Or at least the dumb looking one. I don't know you guys well enough yet. Here's a penny, but I'm going to call it a nickel. Let's see how you react.
What kind of ridiculousness is this?
Shut up, Chris.
What kind of blasphemy
So
are you playing
they
at,
all
sir?
sat down for lunch, and the door just fucking goddamn flies open like Jean-Claude Van Damme goddamn does one of his famous just how can you resist that man's split kicks straight to it. Oh, it's all in slow-mo, and his eyes are all fucking red from that powder that the Chinese dude with the boobs threw in his face.
Bolo. Hell
Oh
yeah.
my god.
Chong Li.
This is my favorite movie ever.
Fucking love it.
And a lovely
Okay, USA.
a lovely 10-year-old girl appeared. Grace was humming a song, and I'm guessing it was "She's a brick house. She's a matty. I'm letting it all hang out." And her mom's like, "I thought I fucking told you to stop singing that song." And she just added that one little part at the end. And just looks at the floor. But she had these big brown eyes and this dark brown hair that but it really played off of her ghostly pale skin. And
Whitey McWhiteums. Mm-hmm.
and whoever wrote what the fuck I'm reading just maybe is into kids. I don't know. I'm just gonna throw that out there because the sentence goes, her huge brown eyes and dark brown hair contrasted with her very pale skin and pink lips. She would be a real heartbreaker someday.
And it threw in there in the very beginning that she was 10, so as to just get it out of the way.
Oh,
And then call attention to the rest of this.
not just 10. A lovely 10-year-old girl.
A lovely 10. That's not funny.
Why do birds suddenly appear every time you are near? Just like me, they long to be pedophiles.
Pooping on you.
Oh, come on now, Chris. He's 10.
Oh, no, I thought we were talking. Oh.
I mean, every time I hear that song, I think of when Marge walks into to after-school detention in Homer Caesar for the first time.
Oh, is that the song they used?
Yeah, I really hate that fucking episode. I don't know why that's stuck in my head so hard for so many years. And everybody out there, yes, I know for a fact that was a fucking Simpsons episode. I misattribute shit from and to the Simpsons all the time, and I'm sorry about that. I really am. And I wish I could go back and make corrections. But Chris said if I ever made a correction on the show, he would fucking find me and stab me.
Yep. With what, though, is the mystery.
And see, that's not even the scariest part. The scariest part is that he never once says, allegedly.
Nope.
So,
Nope.
back to
It's
this.
not in my vocabulary.
Back to the apparently sexy as hell 10-year-old girl, Grace.
Grace.
Well, she had just come home from church. She was still in her Sunday clothes, her church clothes, her white silk confirmation dress with white silk stockings and a string of creamy pearls. This dude is totally into fucking kids.
What the fuck are you reading, dude?
Okay.
Excuse me.
So the full sentence is, coming right from church, she still wore her Sunday clothes. White silk confirmation dress, white silk stockings, and a string of creamy pearls made her look older than her 10 years.
Oh, no. We heard you the first time.
Yeah.
That is...
It's like, no, we get it. You want to fuck this little girl. So can we just be scientific about this now and get to the facts?
Please. I'm not uncomfortable with it or anything.
I'm really hoping I haven't accidentally stumbled into some fucking weird fan fiction.
Yeah, that would be weird.
Well, you know what? Email me. Tell me if I have.
So curious now.
So Mr. Frank Howard, the little old crumpled suit wearing, droopy mustached man sitting there, he sees Grace, and just like the author of the fucking shit I'm reading, apparently cannot take his eyes off the beautiful little girl. So Mr. Frank Howard says to little Grace, he says, "Let's see how good a counter you are," as he handed her a huge wad of bills to count. So the fucking poorest goddamn floor dirt buds were just like, I'm surprised they didn't all just in a line like dominoes just lose consciousness from the aneurysms they were getting by seeing more than $1 bill with nothing at a time.
He had bands.
So
racks on racks.
You know, who doesn't these days, though?
I mean,
especially farmers. As a farmer, you should know you got to.
Farmers got it.
So, little Gracie says, after counting, because, by God, she's a fucking goddamn fine counter.
I bet she is.
She exclaims, $92.50, Well, what a bright little girl, Mr. Howard said. And after saying this, no doubt spoken without a hint of creepiness, sentence, Mr. Howard gives her 50 cents to buy candy for herself and her little sister. So, after this delicious meal of pot cheese and strawberries, I mean, when you eat
back to the pot cheese.
When you eat pot cheese and strawberries, your pinkies just shoot out no matter what. It's like you couldn't curl them in if you wanted to. So
mine did when you said it, and I just thought it was something weird that happened. I didn't want to make mention of it, but I'm glad you said something.
I mean, mine have been forced out for about 6 hours now. After we do the show, I'm going to go to the hospital and just to check and make sure it's not the pot cheese research I've been doing.
It's starting to hurt.
Oh, it started hurting a long time ago. It's well past that to just not being able to feel them. So Mr. Howard stands up, wipes the, I guess, pot cheese crumbs off of his crumpled suit, or wipes the smeared pot cheese that's around his mouth off with a handkerchief. I don't know if pot cheese smears or crumbles. Deal with it.
I'm looking it up right now.
You know what? Don't you dare tell me. I'm so serious. I will stab you. So he stands up and he says, "Thank you for sharing such a wonderful meal with me. You know, yes, I brought the meal. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But I gotta leave for a bit, right? But I'm gonna come back this evening. I'm gonna pick Edward and Willie up to, go out to the farm with me. But in the meantime, I have to go to a birthday party. My sis is throwing one for one of her kids. You know, it doesn't matter. Names aren't important these days. It's the late 20s. Nobody has names. So he gives the boys $2 and says, "Hey, why don't you guys go catch a flick in the meantime? We don't have movie theaters out in Farmington, New York, where my farm is, which is obviously a real place and a farm." So
spread it on.
So Delia asks where this sister lived, and he replied that she lived in an apartment at Columbus and 137th Street. Well, he wanted to, because he's such a good, trustworthy guy, that they had met maybe for a total of 45 minutes. And, I mean, shit, man, he had $92 in his pocket. I mean, if you can't...
That's a load.
If you can't trust a man with $92 in his pocket, who can you trust, Chris? Tell me, right now, no thinking, who can you trust? Wrong. So, Delia asked this kindly Mr. Howard, where his sister's house was and shit. And after finding out, she's like, I don't know if I want Gracie to go with you. I don't know if I got to that part. He asked if maybe like Gracie could go to this little kids party with him, because it's a party for kids, Maybe just go have fun, just let down her gorgeous black hair on that milky white skin with those pink lips. Oh my God.
I bet.
So, unsurprisingly, Delia wasn't really sure that she wanted her to go, but fucking Papa Goddamn Dirty Shits just was like, baby, it'll be good for her. Just let the poor kid go. She don't see much good times. That's a direct quote, by the way.
She don't see much good times.
Let the poor kid go. She don't see much good times. I love reading terrible grammar with wonderful enunciation.
Right.
So, Brickhouse Mama Bear helped Gracie on with her good coat and her gray hat with the streamers, because, as Gracie said every day before leaving the house, fucking God help you, lady, if you don't help me on with that hat with the streamers. And,
okay.
she followed Gracie and Mr. Howard outside, and then, waved as they fucking slowly faded off down the street. Well, that night, they didn't come back. So, they're kind of freaking out a little bit, rightfully so, I guess. Wondering where their fucking daughter went. And the next morning, the young Eddie Bear went down to the police station to report the disappearance. And it's about to get really fun. Is that okay to say, Chris? Is it?
Sure.
I mean,
let's go with that.
I mean, you said that like it's not okay to say that.
No, it's perfectly acceptable. I was searching for possibly another adjective to use instead, but no, I mean, that one works.
Okay, so while going to the police station, a certain police lieutenant, Samuel Dribbin, who has a name just remarkably close to Lieutenant Drebin, who is, of course, our hero and Christ-like figure of the Naked Gun.
Leslie. The old homie. Actually, it was funny. Somebody asked some ridiculous question, what's your favorite O.J. Simpson movie, on something I was watching earlier. And the person who was being asked the question couldn't come up with anything, but instantly I was like, Naked Gun, the Police Squad, the first one.
Fuck, dude, I don't know if I know any other O.J. Simpson movies than Naked Gun.
Right, no.
I mean, that's...
But he was in all three, so which one was your favorite?
Oh, 33 and a third.
Really?
Oh, the others can suck a dick.
Oh, no way, huh?
It had the whole Manchurian Candidate angle to it. It had fucking goddamn Mrs. Elvis Presley in it, acting all va-va-voom.
Right,
and just atop of his goddamn game, Leslie Nielsen. So, this certain police lieutenant, Samuel Dribbin, sorry, that's going to be hard to do, Dribbin, said something that gave the buds pause, let's say. That thing was that the address that this Mr. Frank Howard had given them for his sister's apartment wasn't real. So this old man was a fraud. There was no Frank Howard, no farm in Farmingdale. I fucking told you. Long Island, Farmingdale, not a single fucking farm.
I do bring farming equipment out there, though, so, well, it's also construction equipment.
To Farmingdale?
No, to Long Island.
Okay.
I don't know about Farmingdale specifically, but...
So, hey, this guy that came and picked up your sweet little daughter, completely false. The whole thing. Yeah, go figure. So, the police began normal investigative activities, meaning they checked out everything on this quote-unquote Frank Howard and what he had told the Buds. They also had the Buds go through their, and god damn it, I love this name for a book of mugshots, Rogue's Gallery of Photos.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Rogue's Gallery. It's so Batman. It's so fucking Batman.
It is.
And they had
Very Captain Cold.
this had to be really reassuring here. So and checked on all the known child molesters, mental patients, etc. It came to nothing. No trace of Gracie. So, on June 7th, the police mailed out 1,000 flyers to police stations throughout the country with a photo of Gracie and a description of the aforementioned Mr. Howard.
Oh, yeah? Was that description...
Old man, walrus mustache.
Flattering? Oh, no, I thought we were talking about a description of Grace.
No.
I was like, was it as flattering as the one
it
that
had it had a picture of Grace. They knew what they were getting into right away.
It speaks for itself, right?
But the description of Mr. Howard did say, man, he's just got the tightest ass.
He must work out.
So sending out all these flyers along with the fucking metric shit ton of local publicity had just a flood of Gracie sightings, and of course, because people are terrible, crank letters come in, each of which had to be actually investigated by 20 plus detectives who had been assigned the case.
Isn't it funny how it doesn't matter what era or time period, like, there have always been ridiculous prankster asshole people in the world of all ages who have nothing fucking better to do with themselves than to be dickheads at someone else's horrific expense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Another thing that strikes me is the fact that it doesn't matter what era we are in, the authority will go to ridiculous lengths to find a hot-ass 10-year-old white chick.
Oh, man. I didn't want to bring that up, but... thanks for doing it for me. However, I will point out now, because I try not to be a hypocrite, if I notice that perhaps this is maybe a hypocritical moment. That's kind of what we are, or what we're doing. However, we're not doing it to be assholes.
No. We are doing it to bring forth the assholes from our past so that we can look deep into them and learn.
Right. It's from a different angle, and it's not that we're we're not doing it at the expense of the victim or the victim's families.
Not at all. I mean, we're saying nothing but good stuff about them in truth. So the cops had gotten a couple of solid clues in. They found the Western Union office in Manhattan where Frank Howard had sent the message to the Buds, plus the original handwritten message. From the writing and grammar, it was clear that Howard had some education at least, and a refinement of sorts. But he's an old...
Well, he had $92, and he didn't look like somebody that could have robbed a few people for it.
Exactly.
So.
And, he's an old man. I mean, old people get things the damnedest places.
I mean, it's funny how depending on, so many different factors, like you really have to think about different scenarios or different reasons why this person is up to such hijinks.
Absolutely.
Or, like what's really the deal? What is he even capable of? Or, that all kinds of different questions.
Here's something that I'd never known that the police had found out was that they had also located the push cart that Howard had bought the pot cheese that he'd given to the Buds. Both addresses were in East Harlem, which then became a focal point of search and investigation.
Oh, so like the like push cart, so like the little dude walking up and down the street selling
Right.
the pot cheese. The
Jamaican guy with the bobsled. Yeah,
I gotcha.
yeah. 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready. Now bobsled go, or whatever he says.
Yeah.
So the
Elote man in Mexico.
the cops at the time weren't strangers to child kidnappings at all, which I think is kind of redundant. Let's just say kidnappings.
Right.
Really, there was an oddly similar case the year before, on February 11th, 1927. There was a 4-year-old boy named Billy Gaffney, and he was playing in the hall outside his apartment with his 3-year-old neighbor, who was, as luck would have it, also named Billy. Now, a 12-year-old neighbor was babysitting his sleeping sister and went out to join the boys, but went back to his apartment quickly after hearing his sister cry. A few minutes later, the older boy noticed that the 2 Billies were gone and told the younger Billy's father. After quite the fucking search, the dad found his 3-year-old son alone on the top floor of the building. His son had been up on the roof. "Where's Billy Gaffney?" the man asked his son. "The boogeyman took him," the little boy replied.
Oh.
The next day, a whole platoon of detectives came to investigate, and they basically ignored the 3-year-old witness, who stuck to his explanation.
Right.
At first, they thought that he had wandered outside into some factory buildings in the neighborhood, or had fallen into the canal a few blocks away. But the people in the community, they organized a search. They dredged the canal, but no sign of little Billy. Eventually, someone finally listened to the little 3-year-old boy, who gave them the description of the boogeyman. He was a slender old man with gray hair, a gray mustache. The police paid no attention to the description and didn't connect it to a crime that had been committed by the Gray Man a few years earlier. In July of 24, 8-year-old Francis McDonald played on the front porch of his house in the pastoral Charlton Woods section of Staten Island. His mom was nearby, nursing her infant daughter, and she saw a gaunt, elderly man with gray hair and mustache in the middle of the street. She stared at him. He constantly clenched and unclenched his fist and was just mumbling to himself.
Ooh,
that
sounds ominous.
The man tipped his dusty hat to her and disappeared down the street. Later that afternoon, the old man was seen again watching Francis and 4 other boys play ball. The old man called Francis over to him. The other boys continued to play. A few minutes later, both the old man and Francis were gone. A neighbor noticed a boy that looked like Francis walking that afternoon into a wooded area with an elderly, gray-haired tramp behind him. The disappearance of Francis wasn't noticed until he missed dinner. His dad, who was a policeman, organized a search. They found the boy in the woods under some branches. He had been horribly assaulted. His clothes had been torn from his body, and he had been strangled with his own suspenders. Francis had been beaten so badly that police doubted that the old tramp could have really been as old and frail as he looked. The beating was so severe that perhaps the old tramp had an accomplice who had the strength to maul the child. In a short period of time, Manhattan fingerprint experts and police photographers were enlisted in the case, as well as some 250 plainclothes policemen. The huge manhunt yielded several promising prospects, except that none of them looked like the gray-haired, mustached old tramp. His face was burned forever in the memory of Anna MacDonald. She said, "He came shuffling down the street, mumbling to himself, making queer motions with his hands. I'll never forget those hands. I shuddered when I looked at them. How they opened and shut, opened and shut, opened and shut. I saw him look toward Francis and the others. I saw his thick gray hair, his drooping gray mustache. Everything about him seemed faded and gray.
Wow.
So despite the massive efforts...
That's a hell of a description.
Yeah. It's fucking chilling.
Yeah.
Despite the massive efforts of the police and the community at large, the gray man had basically vanished into thin air. So
the dude who can be terrifying forever with just his hands from a distance, even.
Oh, fuck, man.
Like, that's talent.
So, if you're listening to this show and you don't already know who we're talking about, I will now let you in on a little information. We have just started the first in probably a 3-part episode series of Albert Hamilton Fish, also known as the Gray Man, as the Werewolf of Wisteria,
That was badass.
and as the Moon Maniac.
Mm-hmm. I think that was a cool supervillain name.
The Werewolf of Wisteria. I don't know. It's literally a toss-up between the Werewolf of Wisteria and the Gray Man for fucking craziest, creepiest supervillain name of all time to me, because they are both equally as terrifying. It just equally as disconcerting, equally as holy fuck. It's
Indeed.
It's supernatural. Not just the werewolf part. It's the whole thing. Just the Gray Man. It's like a infinitely less douchey Slender Man.
Right.
It's like this man who will you slowly appear out of the edge of the forest that's by your rural home, and you'll see him staring at your children play, and he's mumbling to himself, and he's making these really strange, erratic movements, and then just as quickly he fucking backs up and disappears back into the foliage. And then hours, minutes, fucking days, whatever later, your child goes missing. And you think back to that oddly mustachioed fucking old man that didn't seem quite right, that seemed infatuated with the children at play. And then someone says, "Oh, I think I saw your boy," or at least a kid that looked like him, a lot like him. I remember seeing him going into the woods, and there was like this old man behind him, and that's the last anyone sees of your kid until you find his horribly mutilated by just sheer force of will of physical violence. That's just all directed toward them. And what do you think? What do you say to yourself?
I mean, yeah, I don't even want to put myself in that headspace. That's pretty rotten. But I can say, commenting on the name thing, that if you think about the psychology of how creepy a name like the Gray Man really is, let's say in the world of like superheroes and villains, where everybody chooses a name that reflects or that basically tells everybody what their powers are.
Right. You know what you're
This guy
getting. Yeah.
chooses a color but not even a color.
That's right.
Like
it's like the
in-between of everything.
It's like the boring absence of color.
It's like, what the hell are his powers? I don't know what that guy can do. But he looks really creepy, so I think I'm going to be scared of him and leave him alone.
I will tell you that his powers are exclusively, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, his powers are pedophilia.
But way more than just pedophilia.
Oh, so much worse than just pedophilia, people. We have... Let me do my damnedest as a person who can read words, can sometimes speak them even.
As long as they're not Russian.
Russia's a dick. So, these are some characteristics of the gray man, Albert Fish. Sex pervert, including cannibalism, coprophilia, urophilia, pedophilia, and masochism. But we will we'll get into there are, god damn it, man, there's more.
Pretty sure it's sadomasochism.
well no, listen to it. Listen to this, and we'll certainly go way deeper into this in the trial episode. But several psychiatrists had talked to him, and they testified about Fish's sexual fetishes, including coprophilia, urophilia, pedophilia, masochism, but there was a disagreement as to whether these activities meant he was insane. Some said, his focus on child development, oh fuck, dude, he treated things as a game because he was a very, very, oddly enough, God-fearing gentleman. And that
is odd.
Can and kind of does turn into the most despicably twisted part of him. He sorry, this is the only fucking word that I could find for it, but he perverts any kind of good message that, because I give religion a kind of a hard shake on this fucking show, and I don't fucking hide my feelings about religion, but I will say, believe whatever the fuck you want as long as it doesn't hurt me. Well, Mr. Fish heard what I said, and he heard it fucking almost 100 years ago, and he told me to politely fucking shove goddamn accelerant-soaked cotton balls into my anus and to go ahead and ignite the conflagration and shut my mouth and enjoy the pain.
Ooh.
See, you say that. See,
that is quite the event.
You say that. So, Chris, how oh, fuck, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no shortage of that in talking about this guy and doing this story. If you want to do it any justice, because it's not like, it's not like there's a ton of different, I'm not trying to give anything away or anything like that for those people who don't know who this is, or who, like us, are too lazy to do the research now that you've given away his name, to beat us to it. But, yeah, it's not like there's a whole lot to the story, but there is so much at the same time. And this guy, like, you could just sit around and talk about this guy all day and never, well, obviously it was 100 years ago, so it's not like we can ask him any questions nowadays, but I would be so curious, really so curious, because still to this day he really does live up to all the holy shit what the fucks that we're giving him.
Right. There's a reason for the hype, and there's a reason that both Chris and I sound cautiously terrified of this man, because it does seem like something that physically was an actual corporeal fucking form, walked the earth as this thing that we're gonna tell you about in the weeks to come. He just seems, his story seems to have this fucking power that could reach out from anywhere, anytime, and affect you, because he was the id run unchecked, period, and that's literally all he could be. I'll close out this show by a quote from a psychiatrist from his trial. I mean, we'll go over this again, but this needs to be said about him now. I characterize his personality as introverted and extremely infantilistic. I outlined his abnormal mental makeup and his mental disease, which I diagnosed as paranoid psychosis, because Fish suffered from delusions and particularly was so mixed up about the questions of punishment, sin, atonement, religion, torture, self-punishment. He had a perverted, a distorted, if you want, an insane knowledge of right and wrong. His test was that if it had been wrong, he would have been stopped, as Abraham was stopped by an angel. And that
I've never heard that before.
Oh, like,
that's extra special.
And on that, just note, you've just listened to another nightmare-changing episode of See No, Hear No, Speak No.
The UFOs, the conspiracies. This is another one of those goddamn episodes. And Moitas.
Oh, Chris, you know what time it is?
I'm going to tell you what time it is when we go ahead and hit stop.
4:30. It ain't late. No.
It's just early.
No, it's early. How do you know that obscure fucking Spin Doctor song?
Oh my god, how do I know that?
Yeah.
Probably because I got, like, half white in me.
You keep telling the INS that. It'll work one day.
One of these days.
Countdown!
Thrice.
Open your arms too late to beg you or cancel it all. I
Good
know
night, kids.
it must be killing time. Unwillingly mine. Fate, I'll be getting sure we're home through the thick and thin. It'll wait until you give yourself to him. Fate, I'll be getting sure well. It'll wait until you give yourself to him. Fate, I'll be getting sure.